Welcome back to another episode of the Working in Hockey podcast. I'm your host, Nick Bowins. Pleased to be joined today by Sydney Silverman, currently working with the AHL's Providence Bruins as the manager of digital ticketing and marketing. Sydney, how's this season going so far?
It is going so well. We are off to a great start. We are on a 12-game winning streak right now, which is tied for franchise best. So couldn't be happier right now.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And hopefully that continues past when we drop this podcast. And as we inch closer towards the playoffs here, it's quite the run that the P Bruins are on. I'm hearing that's what the kids call them these days.
That is what our nickname is. We are the P Bruins. But yeah, fingers crossed for sure.
Awesome. Well, I guess first and foremost here, Sydney, I always like to just better understand your role a little bit more. Again, manager of digital ticketing and marketing. What does your role entail? What does a general day look like for Sydney?
So we are a pretty small team, so we kind of all wear a lot of hats, but I would say that I mostly am helping out our chief sales officer and our chief marketing officer. This could go from making our socials graphics to marketing materials to go on our email blast for new customers, current season ticket holders, just trying to really generate as many leads as we can to get the P Bruins out to as many people in the area as possible. So I usually spend a lot of my time on Photoshop and just seeing what else is out there in the hockey world and seeing what we can bring from our big brother at the B Bruins down to here and also just around the league and seeing what we can bring over here.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I want to dive into that kind of comparison and growth there with different teams and leagues too. But one thing you and I have joked about before this is that I think the reputation of a marketing role in sports today is so much focused on the Instagram clip, the score graphic, etc. But like we said, there's a lot more goes into it than just what ends up on Instagram, TikTok, or otherwise. What are some of those maybe more niche or more behind the scenes components of marketing that your role focuses on, Sydney?
Yeah, so I've actually had to pick up a lot of like coding skills on our website. One of the things that we branched into this year was bringing our P Bruins pro shop onto online and bringing that into an online space. We never had that before this year. So that was kind of my role to see how we could best market that. And also, I was kind of the lead on how to create that entire website. That was not something that I had anticipated. So that was something that I took a little bit of coding in college, but it was something that I definitely honed more of a skill as I grew in this role here. And then that helped when we transferred over with our chief marketing officer into a new website for this year. I was helping him out kind of code on our website. So there's definitely niche skills that you could learn that will help you stand out in marketing. That's not just, I want to do social media. Can I, I'm great with TikToks or this and that. That's not even something that I kind of do on a day to day. We do have our communication specialist who is a Boston Bruins hire. I work very closely with him. It's definitely a very fun part of the job, but I would say there are like smaller things that I was able to kind of push myself forward once I figured out those better skills. Like my boss loves that I can code now, and it's a great skill for me to take other places if I so choose. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and obviously you mentioned the new website there. It looks phenomenal. First of all, you mentioned the social platforms. What other sort of platforms or tools would you say it's important for somebody to know or learn if they're looking to end up in a role like yours, Sydney? Is there an integration with Google and Facebook ads? I know the P Bruins have a newsletter as well. What other sort of platforms or skills would you suggest people learn if they want to end up maybe in shoes similar to yours?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Something that our president, like my president and I are working very close with is Facebook ads and Google ads and seeing what's hitting, what's not, what are we getting clicks on, what's going to drive people to get to our games, where can we kind of go at, like what kind of market can we kind of go after with our current season ticket holders, where can we generate those new leads and who's clicking. So I think if you're able to figure out or maybe not figure out, if you're able to kind of understand that aspect of it, of what platforms are working for what type of demographic. Are people using their phones more? Are they on tablets more? Are they on computers more? And then shifting your ads towards those metrics. I think that that's been really helpful for us. Something that we have been using more this year is our Facebook ads, but specifically generated towards mobile, less towards desktop. And that's been really helpful for us, which we didn't really know going into it at the beginning of the year, but something that we've seen, especially with our new shop online with the Pro Shop, we've definitely seen an uptick on mobile users. So now we're pushing towards getting our website to an app and making everything more mobile friendly. Just trying to make sure that we're, staying as current as we can with the times and things like that. But we still do have a few hard copy ticket holders and things like that. So always have to make sure that you're understanding everything, but just definitely staying up to date for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very well said. And I think leads into one other thing that I wanted to talk about there, Sydney, which is you kind of mentioned looking at other teams and leagues for inspiration on content and marketing approaches, etc. I think back to one of my first roles in the game was with Owen Sound in the Ontario Hockey League. And I'm assuming you aren't too familiar with Owen Sound, and neither are our listeners. It's a town of about 20,000, and the rink holds about 35,000 or 3,500, sorry, not thousand. Everybody in the town already knows the team exists, right? The team's been there for decades. Everybody already knows it exists. So you're trying to convince consumers that have probably already been to a game to come back to more games, as opposed to maybe in a new market where you're trying to educate people on hockey for the first time, right? We see some of these ECHL or SPHL expansion teams where they're trying to educate a new southern market on hockey for the very first time. With the P Bruins, they've been there for decades. They've been a lot of success, a lot of good hockey players come through the organization. How do you look at or think about convincing people in the area to come for a game when they already do know the team exists and they've probably been in the rink before, right?
Yeah, so we're definitely very lucky in some aspects based on like who our alumni are. I mean, we have people that have been season ticket holders basically since the team was created. And then because of also how close we are to our NHL affiliate, we do get a lot of those residual fans that maybe don't want to make it all the way up to Boston or, have our season tickets over Boston's. But it is a little bit challenging every year to come up with something brand new to try to make sure that we're staying like not even just relevant, but that we're staying exciting, that we're staying fun, making sure that people want to be back in our building. So I think that every summer being able to sit down because we're not that large of a team, we make it a point to kind of sit down all together and just kind of toss out ideas and whatever theme ideas, like if somebody's been sitting on something for a couple years or just, we just had our Snoopy night on this past Sunday. And that was an idea that I forget who had it last summer, but someone just kind of threw it out there and they were like, peanuts would be great. And some people were like, oh, I don't know. Like, is this really going to hit the market? Like, it's hockey. Who cares about peanuts? And we had probably almost a nearly sold out game. We've been selling bobbleheads for the first time ever. So that's something that we were doing this year that we invested some money in. So there's like things that you do that way that your checks and balances of where are you going to spend your money and is it going to pay off? But this was something that we took a risk on with a new theme and it hit. Um, so I think just making sure that we're all communicating and talking about our like fun ideas, even if it seems silly. Another thing about Rhode Island is we have a huge Italian population. So we had our chicken parm night and our fight and parm night a few months ago. And it was such a success. I think we had just online alone with our pro shop, we had $15,000 worth of sweatshirt sales. And that is on top of in store and also just ticket revenue. And it did so well, this random fighting chicken parmesan like logo that we're doing a chicken parm fights or strikes back night, I believe next weekend. So it's just silly things like that. We're the AHL. We can kind of have a little bit of fun with it. We don't have to always have these really strict rules here. We can kind of play around with our themes a little bit. We do also obviously have our like committed weekends of like first responders, and we always have our Bruins Fights Cancers weekends. But then in between all of those, we're able to have our Peanuts weekends, and we're having our Batman weekend this upcoming weekend. So it's just things like that. Just being able to stay fun with it is how I think we're able to just have fun with it.
Yeah, that's great insight, and I think it's like you said, that's one of the beauties of minor professional hockey is it's not always as strict or buttoned up, and you get again a small team in the room to kind of spitball these ideas and bounce different things, and again look at other teams and leagues to see what's worked in different markets, what you can maybe spin off or come up with there as well. Sydney, how long have you been with the P Bruins now, and how has your role evolved from early days to where you are now?
Yeah, so I started working here 2 years ago. I used to work for another AHL team, and I wanted to move back to the East Coast, so I basically DM messaged one of the employees here on LinkedIn, and I was like, "Hey, I wanna work here," and he led me in the right direction, so I started as a part-time game day staff, and within 3 months, they kind of saw what I brought to the table, and they offered me a full-time position, and from there, I just really tried every day to show that I loved being here and I didn't want to go anywhere else, and I wanted to continue to expand here, and tried to do whatever I could to expand my role here, so I was promoted within a year, up to my manager position. So I basically had 2 full seasons, and I went from part-time game day staff to now I'm a manager, and I have no intention of leaving. Like, I love this place. So it's been really fun, and yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
That's music to my ears for a couple reasons there, but to circle back to the LinkedIn DM, was this somebody that you had introduced yourself or spoken to prior, or was that the kind of first initial? Let me give this a shot.
Yeah, no, I basically looked on the Providence Bruins, like, staff directory, and I initially, I wanted to work in social media, so I looked at who their social media, like, employee was, and it was the, communication specialist out of Boston. So I messaged him on LinkedIn, and I said, basically, "Hey, do you guys do you do internships, or do you do part-time, work under you?" And he said, "No, we don't really do internships, but let me direct you over to this person who runs all of the part time staff." And, when I was able to secure an interview with her, she looked at my resume and she was like, "You're a little overqualified for this position. Are you sure you want to be a part time staffer?" Because, I was graduated out of college, or I believe I was maybe not graduated. I had like a year left, and she was like, "We usually do have freshmen that work in this position." And she was like, "Oh, if you want this, like, we're happy to have you." And I was like, "Yes, please, I want a job." So, um, I think that's another thing. Like, I have a lot of conversations. People reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time, and they're like, how do I get in sports?" And I'm like, talk to everybody, communicate with everybody, reach out to anybody, because you never know what door could open. You never know what internal, position might have just opened up. That's the other thing about sports that I've kind of learned is that it's a very small world, and people do kind of like hire internally before anything gets posted, really. So I got really lucky that with this game day position here, like, we don't usually post it at all. So I was really, like, very lucky with the way that I was able to kind of progress here. So I do kind of make it a point whenever people reach out to me on LinkedIn and they're like, "Do you have a minute for a chat? Can I call you with this?" I'm like, "Yes, please. Ask me all your questions," because if people didn't do that with me, I would have never been here.
Yeah, that's so awesome to hear, and I think it's consensus across most people that we have on the show is that that's how they kind of got started. Is just finding any way into the building, and then from there, it's what you make of it, right? And not everybody will get back to you when you reach out online. Not everybody has the time to do that coffee chat or anything, like you said, but you can't take those things personal. It's just because they're busy. You find that next person, you send that next message. And like you said, you never know where those opportunities will come up. And at the end of the day, there's so many good people in our industry who did get their start by doing that same approach or methodology that more often than not, they are willing to take the time, right?
Yeah, I always think it's worth the ask at least. Like, worst thing is they don't even see it, and best thing is you get a job. So you never know.
100%. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's going to give us at least three or four good clips already from this episode there, Sydney. But I wanted to ask what other, I know you mentioned the chief marketing officer, chief sales as well. What other roles or, I guess, peers do you have the most involvement with there on the team? Are there any game day staff or part time roles that you have a lot of integration with there as well?
Yeah, so I work probably the closest with the chief sales officer. He is the one that is usually like assigning me my tasks, and we're the ones like bouncing our ideas off of each other. I try to take a lot off of his plate as far as our email marketing goes. And then the other manager, her name's Erin. She is my age, and we work the closest together. We are like two peas in a pod, partners in crime. We absolutely work so well together. And I think that's also why we've both been able to really progress here. We've been here around the same amount of time. So both of us kind of got pushed up and promoted and at the same rate, because I think of how hard we're able to push each other, and also how it's really nice to have another woman in sports that like wants the other one to succeed. So we work so well together because we're always pushing each other and because we want the best for this place, which has been really fun.
Yeah, I think that's very well said too. Is it's kind of a buddy system a lot of times in sports too, right? People come in the same cohort or work up the ladder at the similar times, and kind of creates that sounding board and person you can lean on as well, which is super helpful. One other question that I wanted to ask there, Sydney, on the marketing side of things, like we said, marketing is pretty broad. There's a lot of different buckets or categories. Where do you see the game continuing to evolve as it pertains to marketing? Is it super social and creative focused like we've seen these past couple of years? Are we going to see a swing back to maybe some more traditional media and marketing strategies as the eyeballs gravitate back there? What do you see for the next couple of years in sports marketing in general?
For sports specifically, I think that the social game is so important because the demographics that you're able to reach through social media is so vast. You reach people that just got their cell phones, and then you are like down in early high school, maybe middle school, and then you're reaching people that are all the way up at the older age demographic that, are barely on their phones but might scroll through Facebook reels and things like that. So there's such a wide variety of places that you can reach people through social media. I think that the traditional marketing aspect is a fun one to play around with. It's something that, for marketing purposes, when we're doing our like player fan events, usually tend to lean towards traditional media. Like, I've pulled out disposable cameras and I'm like handing them off to the players, and those are the materials that we'll use to promote our event. But as far as for the general purposes, like, I do think that online and social media is definitely where people should be focusing their attention on, like learning the trends, learning what's current, learning what's recent, seeing how you can stay relevant with it, just those types of aspects. I think those are really where marketing is going to like continue to skyrocket for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And to flip it back to you a little bit here and your career, I know you've had a number of different roles in different sports through university and different part-time opportunities. Scrolling your LinkedIn there earlier, I think that that's something that I try to harp on a lot, Sydney, is like getting those different experiences and just meeting people at those. And it doesn't mean that Brown University is where you're going to end up full time, or the different part-time event staff things that you have done is going to be your full-time endeavor. But speak a little bit to the importance of getting involved in different sports and different programs and different schools to kind of get that initial experience and footing.
Yeah, I think that it is so invaluable the way that you are able to meet people in so many different roles. I worked at Brown for a very short amount of time, and the connections that I was able to bring from that job grew to like such good bonds through within the industry with sports photographers that I still talk to, that I'm now able to push along their like my connections to them when they get up into higher places. One of the people that I worked with at Brown, he now works full time at URI as a videographer. So like I'm always funneling people to intern under him, which he loves and appreciates. So it's just things that like that. I think I'm also learning, something I learned when I was at Brown is how to work around different, like I don't know, different types of people. You're working around like the ADs all the time, and then you're also with the college students 24/7. It's a much different pace compared to when you get to pro sports, and then your professionalism had to be at one level at college, and then you get here and you're like, oh my God, you have to turn it up to 10. And I think that working at a college helps kind of like helps you understand how to do that, and it helps like kind of mold you into becoming like a more professional, I don't know, person in sports. That was a really bad way to like word that, but it was just really useful for me to kind of like jump around into different positions. When I was at Brown, I was working at different sports, and then when I worked at the Admirals, I was obviously just hockey. And when I was at Brown, I was able to realize that hockey's the one sport that I could like watch this much of and be so invested in it 24/7. I think you really have to love what you're doing if you want to work in sports, and really love showing up for the game every single day because you're around it so, so, so much. Even in marketing, like I'm watching every single game pretty much. Um, and you watch a lot of them. So if you don't like the sport, you're probably not going to like your job. But I don't know. I think that it's been really nice and important for my career, just how many times I was able to explore other avenues of the industry pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. You get to learn from, like you said, different personalities, different people. Every manager has a different approach. Every team, every league, every level has a different methodology. So I think that that's super invaluable experience, and again, something that I try to preach to everybody here, or when they reached out to me for advice or assistance early in their career. One other thing I wanted to ask, Sydney, I know you've got a photography page online as well. Where did the passion for photography come from? You mentioned some of the disposable cameras and others that you've been able to use there in your role today. Where did the passion for photography first come from?
I think it started when I was like way, way younger. I always used to just like pick up whatever camera was around with my parents, and they would always hand me whatever disposable. Like we loved disposable cameras in my house, or like little Polaroid cameras. So I was always taking pictures of outside. And that kind of progressed from landscapes to animals. And then when I got into high school, I was taking pictures of the boys hockey or the boys soccer team, and um, then I was going to college and I played soccer. So I was always around sports, and then I knew that I wanted to pursue something in sports. So I thought that sports photography would be the route that I was going to end up in, and it's really fun. Like that probably is just where it all comes down to for me. Like I just think that photography is so genuinely fun for me. Like I love taking pictures with my iPhone. I have a DSLR, but when when I got into marketing, that's something that I don't really get to touch on as much. So when I'm able to kind of bring it back into my career, it brings a lot of joy for me. When I was at the Admirals, that's kind of where I was able to use it a little bit more, my photography skills, but that also helped me when I got here, when I was part-time. They saw that I had so many different skills and avenues that they could kind of use while I was here. So they were like, "Oh, can you take the youth hockey pictures? Oh, can we our photographer called out sick. Can you run downstairs and take warm-up photos of the game?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this is awesome. I would love to do that." So, I think that's just kind of helped be really, like, exciting for me, because it's so fun to be down on the ice and down on the bench and things like that. So, I think that's where my photography it's just, like, fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think, like you said before, fun and passion are some of the most important parts when it comes to finding a role and comes to finding a career. So that's awesome that you do get to mix it in now and then, and get to capture the game as you see it. There, I think photography, there's a lot of opportunity for photography in our game these days because again everything's been so social video heavy that I mean, I'm sure you have some favorites you look at as well, but I have a few favorite photographers around the NHL, AHL, college teams that I have notifications on for every time they post a picture and see the different ways that they're capturing games, the different cameras, lenses, etc. I am fascinated with that side of the game as well. But Sydney, this has been awesome, and I think you've touched on a number of different pieces of advice throughout here, from reaching out to people, building your network, to wearing different hats, and exploring different roles and industries. But if you could sum it all up in one answer here, what would be the best piece of career advice you would give to somebody looking to break into the hockey industry?
Talk to everybody. That's, like, my number one thing. Reach out, talk to anybody and everybody that you can, even if you feel like nothing's gonna come of it. I've always said that it's better worth said than, you know, not. Why would you not reach out? There's always going to be people that are willing to help you in this industry because of how small it is, but like you said earlier, of course, not everybody's going to be able to answer, but I do think that it's worth the shot at the end of the day. And if it's something that you're truly passionate about and you believe that you've honed your skills enough, and built your resume enough, and gone and branched out in the ways that you can and all the ways that you can, I think that that's really as much as this industry can ask of you. So there's always going to be a place for people that are really passionate about being a part of this industry.
100%. Like you said, the passion is evident in your work, and that's a thing to lean on with anybody looking to get into the industry for sure. But Sydney, this has been awesome. Tell the people where they can find you if they maybe have questions about breaking into the industry or otherwise.
You can find me first on my LinkedIn if you just search Sydney Silverman, and probably on my Instagram. My Instagram is sydneyrose.photo. And if you ever come to a P Bruins game, I'll be walking around probably wearing the sweatshirt. So
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for the time here, Sydney. This was a blast getting to know your role a little bit more. And guys, be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Working in Hockey podcast.
thanks so much.